Okay, we're here with Larry Lapierre from Need for Speed Most Wanted. He's the senior producer. So, Larry, what are you showing here today at the EA event?
Well, John, funny you should ask. We've got Need for Speed Most Wanted here that we're showing people. Key things with Need for Speed this year that we've got a full-on street racing experience with customization, but this year we've also got all the strategic cop evasion that you're familiar with, some of it from Hot Pursuit and previous Need for Speeds, but this is to a whole new level.
Did you go back to Hot Pursuit and kind of saw what worked and worked on that, or did you?
Yeah, it's always part of it. I mean, I think it's never really been a big enough focus for us. So for Most Wanted, it was a matter of really kind of putting the resources and the time and the effort behind it so that we could really kind of make it that tense experience that it should be and make the cops a lot smarter, make there be multiple degrees of tactics and strategies and much more cat and mouse experience than just, you know, straightforward, get pulled over and you're busted.
Right. I mean, Hot Pursuit was, arguably, I think it's probably still the one Need for Speed that everyone really, really loves, and particularly the second one. I mean, was there a lot of pressure in coming to this one with going that approach?
There's a lot of pressure to come back to it, and it's amazing how passionate people are about their Need for Speeds and their styles of Need for Speeds. There are a handful of people that love the tuners, but there's a bunch of people that love the exotics, and you know, to be able to put those together to create a playground that they can kind of pit a tuner against an exotic and then have this other thing looming over our top of them, you know, being the cops. It's a really cool experience. It flows really nicely.
Kind of talk through how the cop chases are different this time.
One of the key differences is that, you know, in Hot Pursuit, one of the things you had your pursuit tree, you know, progression tree, and then you had your race tree. This year they're kind of all intermingled into one experience. So you'll be in the middle of a race and you'll hear a phone call come in, the dispatch from Central will say that somebody's, you know, made a 911 call and that there's street racing going on. Well, you now know that they're on their way at that point. It just builds from a tension point of view. It's not like bang, they're there and you're in the middle of it. You got to build it, you know, a little bit slow, create some tension. The other thing that factors into it is just constant consequences. So if you turn around and get busted too many times in the same car, your car gets impounded, you got to spend money to get it back out, and you just spend a load of money customizing that car. So your strategies and the way that people are going to go about playing the game is going to have to, people are going to have to be smart about how they do it.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the evasion gameplay. Can you explain how that works?
So the cops have 5 levels of heat that they can track you against. So what that means is that you understand at any point in time how hard they're trying to get you and how much they will risk their own person as well as their cop cars and all the rest of it. So early on, if you get into a pursuit and you swerve towards them or anything like that, they'll swerve away. They'll try and kind of stay away. You'll actually hear them get on the radio and call off the pursuit at different points. As you become more notorious, as the bounty on your head becomes larger and larger, they'll stop at nothing at one point. I mean, they're ramming you head on. They're throwing spike belts. The helicopter's called out. It's a lot more difficult, obviously, to get rid of him as the helicopter's spotting. So you can see in your mini map kind of the sight lines of the helicopter and where you are. So if the helicopter's turning around going the other way, you got to spin around, do a 180, get away from him. You need to get out of the line of sight and get to a hiding spot or a safe house to be able to cash out your bounty. By building your bounty up, that's how you earn the right to go up against the Blacklist 15 members. The higher your bounty, the higher level that you can go up against in the Blacklist.
So what's the bounty? That's the sort of wanted level for you? Or?
Yeah, it's basically how we track your wanted level, your rap sheet.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a price on your head, and you know that goes back to, you know, the cost of state damage that you've done. If you run through a lot of public property, the number of cop cars you take out. Every time you do something like that, it just kind of layers in and, you know, creates a little higher bounty. So you got to manage it a bit. I mean, sometimes you'll find yourself in a situation you got to head back to your safe house. You got to paint your car. It'll drop your heat level a little bit so you can head back out of the street. Or maybe your car is just too hot. You leave it in the safe house. You take another car out of your garage, and next time you come back a couple hours later, the heat level's dropped on that car because enough time's passed. So it actually is pretty cool experience.
Are there many differences between the next gen versions and the current gen?
I'd say the biggest difference that, you know, and actually having the benefit of having the next gen system on the desk right beside the current gen stuff, the fidelity that high definition gives us with the next gen stuff is just phenomenal. I mean, the amount of detail you can pick up as you're going through the world with picking your sight lines and kind of where you're wanting to thread the needle and stuff like that, everything is just enhanced. I mean, it's not just about more, It's just about the resolution and just what you get from that. In addition to that, there's obviously more cops that we can render on the screen at the same time. If there's more cops, then we can deploy them in ways that make it more intimidating. There's also more AI cycles that we're getting on the physics engine, on the cop simulation engine. Just generally, everything fidelity-wise is up a notch. Now, what we'll see first generation for the first version in the next generation will be very much like the last cycle. It was 3 years in before we really saw what the potential of any of the platforms were. It's going to be similar. I mean, we got 3 processors on the CPU side. You got a separate graphics processor. There's a lot of power there.
So we were looking at the Xbox version in there. I mean, has working on the 360 version, has that affected the lesser versions? Has it kind of encouraged you to push it harder?
It's interesting you bring that up. The guys working on the Xbox version are right beside the guys working on the Xbox 360 version. And there's a lot of things that the guys have been doing for the Xbox 360 version that the Xbox guys kind of go, well, I can do that too. And they turn around and squeeze it and cram it into the Xbox. And the Xbox version has actually come a long ways because of it. It's really helped. It's really helped that particular SKU.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.